faithfully delivering value by interpreting the world's best books. Hi, this is Sally with the Book Talk. Today we're diving into the biography of Yongzheng, Part 2. In the last episode, we covered Yongzheng's life story, focusing on his ascension to the throne and elimination of political rivals. Now, let's move on to discuss the crackdown on factions. Yongzheng launched three major crackdowns. The faction struggles involved eliminating groups like Inxi's faction, Liang Gengao, Longkodo's faction, and Shi Jishi, with the first two targeting Manchu nobles and bureaucrats. The latter aimed at opposing officials who entered through imperial exams. Back when Emperor Kangxi deposed the crown prince, many court officials sided with Yinsi. Most were Han officials who came through the exams, and in this system, mentors and students often formed cliques, with juniors seeking powerful patrons. Factions among exam cohorts of the same year disrupted governance, a key issue Yongzheng urgently addressed. Now, let's see how Yongzheng tackled this. Tian Wenjing, governor of Henan, was a Jiansheng, not a regular exam graduate, and spent 40 years rising to governor. He stayed out of factions and had no mentors or peers from his cohort to rely on. Thus, his sole gratitude was for Yongzheng's promotion, and he worked hard to repay it. He despised mentor-student cliques and didn't favor exam-graduated officials. He repeatedly impeached local officials like Hong Zhonghua, Zheng Fen, Shao, and Yang Wan, all graduates of the 1709 exams who formed cliques and fought back. Since Tian wasn't an exam graduate, they accused him of unfairly rejecting scholars, spreading rumors that he despised intellectuals. How? While in Henan, it happened that Li Fu, a 1709 graduate and governor of Guangxi, was transferred to be governor of Zili. In March 1726, while passing through Henan, Li Fu heard his exam cohort Huan Zhenggluo was impeached, so he confronted Tian Wenjing, accusing him of targeting scholars. Later, Li Fu reached Beijing and accused Tian Wenjing to Yongzheng's face of ruining the nation, then filed a formal impeachment for hiring thugs. Both Li Fu and Tian Wenjing were Yongzheng's favorites, so Yongzheng mediated by sending Li Fu's anonymous memorial to Tian, asking for an honest response. Well aware the memorial was from Li Fu, Tian pretended ignorance and told Yongzheng that it disparaged non-graduates as thugs, proving the writer was an exam graduate. At this point, the impeached Huan Zhenggluo and others were Jinshi from the same cohort. Resentful, they contacted officials to petition the emperor. Despite repeated edicts dissolving factions, this memorial writer still spoke for the Jinshi faction. Speaking for factions, defied imperial decrees, Tian Wenjing immediately labeled it factional rebellion, targeting exam graduates while subtly pointing at Li Fu. Yongzheng took this seriously, focusing on factions. He soon transferred Li Fu from his position as governor of Zili. He was reassigned as vice minister of works. Then, censor Shi Jishi submitted a memorial impeaching Tian Wenjing. Yongzheng noted its identical content to Li Fu's, clearly orchestrated. Furious, Yongzheng dismissed Shi Jishi and exiled him to the Altai frontier to atone through military service. 2 years later, at the Altai camp, Shi Jishi admitted Li Fu had instigated the impeachment. Li Fu was soon imprisoned until the Qianlong era. Thus, Yongzheng prioritized curbing exam graduate factions. Earlier, he'd vowed to cleanse the bureaucracy of exam graduates' accumulated habits since Tang Song dynasties. I say it may not make anything. To Yongzheng, exam graduate factions were a millennium-old problem since Tang Song. Without cleansing, reforms were impossible. Yongzheng adopted capture the ringleader first strategy. Targeting faction leader Shi Jishi exemplified this approach. For ordinary exam-promoted officials, Yongzheng punished their misconduct accordingly. Previously, Ministry of Personnel officials handling evaluations were exclusively exam graduates. To end factionalism, Yongzheng ordered these positions open to non-graduates. He also mandated avoiding mentor-student relationships in appointments to prevent collusion. Yongzheng's fundamental goal: purge factions, and clean governance to pave way for his reforms. He implemented major reforms: secret memorial system, returning meltage fees to treasury, merging head tax into land tax, and establishing Grand Council, strengthening imperial power with lasting impact. First, the secret memorial system. Pre-Qing, all reports were public. Relevant officials saw reports before the emperor, making sensitive topics unreportable, blocking information flow and hindering bottom-up communication. The secret memorial system emerged during Kangxi's reign. Its core feature: secrecy. Only memorial writer and emperor knew, but access was limited to imperial confidants, with content restrictions. During Yongzheng's reign, the range of officials authorized to write secret memorials significantly expanded. The book Vermilion-endorsed edicts alone features memorials from 223 writers, but over 1,000 officials actually held this privilege. Nearly all memorials from Yongzheng's era bore the emperor's red-inked comments, known as Vermilion-endorsed memorials. Their numbers are staggering. Taipei's Palace Museum alone preserves over 23,000 such documents. Yongzheng's secret memorials covered more than Kangxi's: local governance quality, officials' diligence, judicial impartiality, military discipline, natural disasters, agriculture, people's livelihoods, customs, and major regional events. They also included confidential aspects like personnel appointments. To ensure secrecy, Yongzheng implemented 4 measures. First, recalling Vermilion-endorsed memorials. After endorsement, writers returned both documents to the palace, no copies allowed. Second, creating lockboxes exclusively for memorials. Only memorial writers and the emperor could open them. Third, direct delivery to the inner court. Provincial governors' memorials went straight to the inner memorial office at Qinqing Gate, delivered by eunuchs. Other local officials' memorials were forwarded by Yongzheng-designated princes or ministers. Fourth, Yongzheng personally reviewed and endorsed every memorial without assistance. After endorsement, most memorials returned to writers for compliance. Then, per Rule 1, they were returned promptly. This system ensured direct imperial control, strengthening power. Early Qing saw grand secretarial scholars wielding quasi-prime ministerial power, while the deliberative council diluted imperial authority. Yongzheng institutionalized the memorial system. All major matters required imperial decisions, bypassing the grand secretariat and council to centralize power. Provincial governors' authority diminished. Even minor local matters required imperial approval, truly integrating central and local governance. This system ensured swift delivery of reports. Yongzheng, ever diligent, promptly endorsed them for immediate execution, dramatically boosting efficiency and enabling his era's major reforms. For instance, major policies like returning meltage fees to the treasury, merging head tax into land tax, and replacing native chieftains with state officials all relied on this memorial system. All right, let's examine the meltage fee policy. Yongzheng's second major reform. So-called meltage fees covered extra losses like silver wastage during smelting or grain eaten by sparrows during storage. Officials used this pretext to demand extra grain or silver taxes from people, called meltage, as insurance. Returning fees to the treasury meant handing them to the state for fair distribution to prevent graft, beginning with Yongzheng's deficit investigation. In late Kangxi's reign, corruption drained central and local treasuries of funds and grain. Thus, upon accession, Yongzheng ordered the Ministry of Revenue to audit finances and establish the Central Audit Office. He tasked Prince Yi Yinji with strict enforcement, vowing zero tolerance repeatedly. A massive anti-corruption campaign spread nationwide, top to bottom, center to periphery. This Yongzheng investigates deficits, famously dramatized, recovered partial debts across provinces after 3 years. Under Governor Tian Wenjing, Henan repaid its provincial treasury deficit fully in the 2nd year. By Yongzheng's 10th year, county-level deficits of 300 to 400,000 taels were repaid, with Henan's treasury holding 700,000 plus taels of meltage fees, eradicating deficits. And Yongzheng praised Tian's efficiency and approved all his governance measures. Thus, Tian joined Ortai, implementer of tribal reforms, as model governors. But how to resolve deficits quickly? Beyond corrupt officials repaying debts, key solution, using meltage fees to cover deficits. Though nominally for local administration, officials embezzled these funds. In Kangxi's later years, meltage rates surged from 4% to 20%, crushing commoners. In Yongzheng's first year, Shanxi and Henan, plagued by deficits, proposed counties surrender all meltage fees to provincial treasuries, fully implementing the policy. Yongzheng approved it in both provinces, officially enacting the policy on July 6, year 2 of his reign. He issued an imperial edict, first criticizing officials for not understanding the necessity of returning meltage fees to the treasury. He believed that when local counties used meltage fees to support superiors, superiors became lenient toward them, muddying governance. Returning fees would clarify governance. Yongzheng. For meltage fees and rates, only reductions were permitted, never increases, reversing Kangxi-era excessive levies. After implementation, Yongzheng allocated fees to 3 purposes. First, covering local deficits. For example, in Yongzheng's first year, Shanxi collected 430,000 taels of meltage fees, 200,000 taels, 47%, covered deficits. Second, implementing nourishing honesty allowances. Once provincial deficits were covered, these funds shifted to nourishing honesty allowances for officials. The nourishing honesty allowance subsidized officials' living and administrative expenses. Yongzheng aimed to eliminate corruption and maintain integrity through this. However, since all fees went to provincial treasuries with no county retention, county magistrates lost income sources and would inevitably impose extortionate levies. To prevent new corruption, Yongzheng granted county magistrates living and administrative subsidies. Previously, magistrates used fees to bribe superiors like governors. To compensate, Yongzheng subsidized them too, establishing nourishing honesty allowances at all levels. Third, subsidizing county office administrative expenses. For instance, Henan collected over 3.4 million taels in grain or silver taxes annually. 1% totaled 31,000 plus taels. This sum from meltage fees was distributed to offices by rank for expenses. These measures resembled modern government budgeting. Granting nourishing honesty allowances was key to Yongzheng's fiscal and administrative reforms. Minqing official salaries were minimal. Top capital officials earned just 180 taels. Highest local officials like governor-generals also earned 180 taels yearly. Provincial governors, 150 taels. County magistrates, 45 taels. Such paltry salaries couldn't support families, let alone hire staff or host superiors. Low salaries plus bureaucracy bred corruption, embezzling fees or profiting from capital cases. Now, Yongzheng allocated meltage fees as nourishing honesty allowances for officials from governors down to county patrol inspectors. Nourishing honesty allowances were tens to hundreds of times higher than officials' base salaries. For example, the Liangjiang Governor General received 30,000 taels, vastly exceeding his 180 tael salary, providing living and administrative funds without burdening people, deterring corruption among officials. Late Qing scholar Zhang Shui-cheng praised Yongzheng's era as having the cleanest governance since Tang-Song dynasties. Yongzheng believed governance reform required stripping gentry of illegal privileges, making them serve alongside commoners. He implemented 4 measures. First, strictly prohibiting gentry from monopolizing tax collection and resisting grain taxes. Monopolizing tax collection meant degree-holding gentry contracted village tax collection like tax farming, overcharging villagers while delaying state payments, resisting grain taxes, causing severe harm. Thus, monopolizing tax collection was explicitly illegal, but local governments often tacitly allowed it to ensure full tax revenue. Thus, Yongzheng decreed, tribute or imperial students monopolizing taxes with arrears, regardless of amount, lost their degrees. Second, for gentry defaulting on grain taxes.
Yongzheng showed no mercy.
In Yongzheng's ninth year, Jinshi, Jiren, Chuchai, and Jiansheng, 1,497 had degrees revoked for tax defaults. Third, strictly forbade officials shielding gentry. Shandong Governor Chen Shiguan's brother, Chen Shikai's servant, brawled with a merchant. Zhejiang Governor Huang Shilin, interrogated with Chen Shikai watching, abusing power against the butcher, sparking a merchant strike. Yongzheng dismissed Huang, ordered Hangzhou general to retry the case, ultimately suppressing the solidarity examination boycott. Yongzheng's crackdown on corrupt gentry sparked resentment.
Students often colluded with local officials to stage examination boycotts.
To coerce superiors, Yongzheng decreed boycott organizers would be permanently barred from examinations. County-wide boycotts received equal treatment. No leniency. This enabled implementing head tax-land tax merger, Yongzheng's third reform. Ding referred to adult males. The head tax merged into land tax. Simply put, it averaged head tax across land acreage, taxing by mu, increasing burdens on large landowners, naturally provoking gentry opposition. In Yongzheng's fourth year, during the Zhejiang provincial exams, over 1,000 gentry gathered at Qiantang County office, forbidding the head tax-land tax merger and forcing merchants to strike. Governor Li Wei used forceful measures to suppress the rioters, implementing the long-disputed head tax-land tax merger province-wide. By the Qianlong era, it spread nationwide, deliberately suppressing the wealthy to support the poor, ending past inequalities where the rich evaded duties and the poor bore burdens. However, more importantly, merging head tax with land tax ensured Qing government revenue, as landowners could pay far better than landless peasants. Yongzheng's era saw the most successful fiscal reforms. Statistics show that in Yongzheng's seventh year, the national treasury accumulated 60 million taels of silver, but by Yongzheng's end, only over 20 million taels remained, due to massive silver spent on Northwest campaigns, decline of the Eight Banner Army, escalating Manchu-Han conflicts affecting operations, and Yongzheng's poor command, leading to high costs without results. Yet, during this, the Grand Council established for Northwestern campaigns remained. This is what we're discussing. The fourth reform, establishing the Grand Council. Yongzheng aimed to boost efficiency, locating it near his residence, the Hall of Mental Cultivation.
For convenience, it had grand councilors as chiefs, with secretaries below. Yongzheng appointed them from grand secretaries, ministers, and vice ministers, no limit on numbers.
Grand councilors weren't full-time. They kept original duties in their ministries, with promotions handled there. Initially, the Grand Council handled military affairs and eight-banner matters, later expanding scope. Eventually covering all confidential state affairs, Grand Councilors drafted documents under imperial decree, sealing them with opening instructions and the council's seal, ensuring high secrecy. Sent directly by the court, they were called court dispatches. This guaranteed strict implementation of central decrees, sped up processes, and boosted Qing administrative efficiency. Moreover, Yongzheng's grand councilors were his confidants, like Prince Yi Yingji, Grand Secretary Zhang Tinyu, Ortai, Zhang Tingshi, Guizhou Governor Gao Qizuo, and Meng Huli. Their ranks varied from top tier to lower fourth tier, showing appointment depended on Yongzheng's high trust, not rank. Yongzheng established the Grand Council, strengthening imperial power while also improving administrative efficiency. For example, in implementing the replacement of native chieftains with state officials in Yunnan, Guizhou, Guangxi, and neighboring regions like Hunan, Hubei, and Sichuan, Yongzheng made decisive decisions and firmly carried them out. The so-called replacement of native chieftains means abolishing hereditary tribal chiefs, establishing prefectures and counties with appointed officials, adding garrisons, building cities, founding schools, implementing imperial exams, and reforming tax systems, among others. This replacement policy began in Yongzheng's fourth year and continued until the end of his reign. However, due to the intensity of the reforms, in Yongzheng's 13th year, tribal chiefs in Guizhou rebelled. Yongzheng sent troops to suppress it, but faced repeated setbacks. Only after Qianlong succeeded to the throne and persisted did the suppression succeed. Although Qianlong abolished some of Yongzheng's flaws, such as his devotion to Buddhism and fondness for elixirs, and released Yongzheng's political rivals like Yinsi, Yintong, Akina, and Saishe to ease tensions, he largely inherited reforms like replacing native chieftains, returning meltage fees, establishing the Grand Council, secret succession planning, and the memorial system. Qianlong inherited most of them, which is precisely Yongzheng's legacy. The survival of his reforms shows they suited the era's needs. Yongzheng had always been healthy, but from the winter of his 7th year, he suffered a severe illness. This illness lasted a long time. From the winter of the 7th year to the summer and autumn of the 9th year, his condition fluctuated with chills and fevers, irregular diet, and restless sleep. The exact illness was unclear. In the 6th month of Yongzheng's 10th year, he fathered a son, Hongyang, suggesting his health might have recovered. But on the 21st day of the 8th month of his 13th year, Yongzheng fell ill at the old summer palace and died on the 23rd, aged just 57. His sudden death wasn't recorded in official documents. Thus, various speculations about his unnatural death arose. For instance, folktales claim Luciiniag, daughter of Luliag, assassinated Yongzheng, or in February Rivers, the Yongzheng emperor, he committed suicide due to incest. The book's author deems these unreliable. He believes Yongzheng died from drug poisoning, as Yongzheng was fond of taking elixirs. After Yongzheng's death, he was given the temple name Shizong and buried in the Yongling Mausoleum in Yizhu on the 2nd day of the 3rd month of Qianlong's 2nd year. His Yongling Mausoleum isn't in Zunhua, where Shunji and Kangxi's tombs are, but in Yixian County. This is because when exploring sites in Zunhua, Yongzheng found none satisfactory. He later ordered Gao Qijuo, governor of Fujian, skilled in feng shui, to survey, ultimately choosing Taiping Yu at Taining Mountain in Yixian County, later known as the Western Qing Tombs. During his 13-year reign, Yongzheng worked diligently with firm reform goals, implementing distinctive policies. His reforms addressed long-standing abuses, partially met productivity demands, clarified governance, strengthened national power, stabilized politics, consolidated the multi-ethnic state, and contributed to historical progress. Overall, Emperor Yongzheng stands among China's most remarkable rulers, a historically commendable figure. Author Then Erkong utilized Yongzheng's vermilion-endorsed memorials, imperial anthologies, court records like Veritable Records of Shizong and Kangxi Court Diaries, plus over 170 collected works and notes. Thus, this book is acclaimed as the most systematic, well-researched, and innovative study on Yongzheng, Then Erkong's most influential work. Recently, Qing-era dramas fueled Fourth Prince fever, heroines romanced by both fourth and eighth princes, or palace power struggles like the Nine Princes' Succession War. These fictionalized tales, like rumors of Yongzheng's usurpation and cruelty, are just light entertainment, but they contradict real history. Their meticulous research, Then Erkong shows empathetic understanding balanced with objective critique in this biography. Indeed, it's essential reading for understanding the real Yongzheng. What kind of person do you think Emperor Yongzheng was? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. All right, that concludes our discussion of Then Erkong's Yongzheng biography. Part 2. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.